The text message arrived at exactly 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, the kind of detail that would become crucial later. It contained 7 words that would unravel a murder plot months in the making. "I can't do this. The guilt is overwhelming." Sarah Mitchell, sitting in her kitchen with the phone in her hand, didn't know who had sent it. She didn't recognize the number, but she immediately understood what it meant. Someone was backing out of their role in the plan to eliminate her husband. Detective Maria Rodriguez had seen plenty of murder plots collapse under their own weight. She'd investigated domestic disputes that escalated to violence, financial schemes that ended in death, and jealous rage that turned into homicide. But this case was different. This was a lover's plan that had gone wrong at the last minute, where the conspirators had turned on each other before the crime could be completed. The investigation would reveal a conspiracy that spanned months, involved multiple participants, and came chillingly close to succeeding. But it would be undone by technology, guilt, and the unpredictable nature of human conscience when faced with the reality of murder. What made this case unique wasn't just the method of the crime or the motivation behind it. It was the way the conspiracy unraveled, not through detective work or forensic evidence, but through the participants' own communication, their digital footprints, and the moral crisis that struck when they finally had to act on their plans. The lover's plan had been sophisticated, methodical, and seemingly foolproof. It had accounted for alibis, evidence cleanup, and post-crime coordination. But it hadn't accounted for human nature, the way people change when faced with the reality of taking a life. The text message that began the investigation was just the first clue in a case that would expose the dangerous intersection of passion, greed, and technology. Maplewood Heights was the kind of upper-middle-class suburb where appearances mattered more than substance. The Mitchell house sat on a cul-de-sac. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2-car garage, with a perfectly manicured lawn and seasonal decorations that changed with mechanical precision. Sarah and David Mitchell had been married for 8 years. Sarah, 34, worked as a marketing director for a tech startup. David, 36, was a successful real estate developer. To neighbors, they embodied the American dream: professional success, financial stability, and social respectability. But the facade was cracking. Sarah had begun an affair with her personal trainer, 28-year-old Marcus Rodriguez, 6 months earlier. David had discovered the relationship through text messages he'd found on Sarah's phone, leading to threats of divorce and demands that she move out. The couple's finances were substantial. David's life insurance policy was worth $2 million, with additional investments totaling nearly $4 million. Sarah stood to inherit everything if David died before their divorce was finalized. Their prenuptial agreement contained a clause that voided her inheritance. Rights in the event of divorce, but maintained them in the event of death. Marcus Rodriguez presented himself as a fitness professional with entrepreneurial ambitions. He'd been working as Sarah's trainer for 2 years, developing a relationship that evolved from professional to personal to criminal. His background check was clean. His social media profiles showed the expected gym photos and motivational quotes, and his financial situation revealed mounting debt and unpaid taxes. The stage was set for a conspiracy that would test the limits of digital forensics and demonstrate how modern relationships could be weaponized into murder plots, all while leaving a trail of electronic evidence that would ultimately expose the truth. November the 12th, 2023, began like any other Tuesday in Maplewood Heights. David left for his downtown office at 7:30 a.m., kissing Sarah goodbye as she prepared for her marketing meeting. The routine was established, predictable, documented by security cameras and smartphone location data. At 8:47 a.m., Sarah's phone sent a text to Marcus. "Today's the day. He's going to the gym after work. Perfect opportunity. Are you ready?" The response came at 8:49 a.m. "Absolutely. I've been preparing for this. Everything is in place. No backing out now." The plan had been developing for months. Sarah and Marcus had discussed various methods: poison that would mimic natural causes, an accident that would appear random, a staged burglary that would suggest an intruder. They'd researched lethal doses, timing requirements, and evidence cleanup. Every detail had been documented in encrypted messaging apps and deleted text conversations. But the method they'd chosen was deceptively simple. David's routine included a daily gym visit from 6 to 7 p.m., a pattern Marcus knew well from his role as Sarah's trainer. The gym's parking lot was poorly lit, frequently empty, and located in an area with limited security cameras. It provided the perfect opportunity for what they planned to stage as a robbery gone wrong. At 5:47 p.m., David's fitness tracker recorded his arrival at the gym. His phone pinged off the gym's Wi-Fi network at 5:48 p.m. His location data showed him entering the building, changing in the locker room, and beginning his workout routine. Everything appeared normal. At 6:23 p.m., Marcus texted Sarah, "He's here. Just started his workout. Timing is perfect. I'll wait until he's leaving." Sarah's response at 6:24 p.m. was brief. "Be careful. Make it look real. Don't leave any evidence." The next hour followed the established pattern. David completed his workout, showered, and prepared to leave. Marcus waited in the parking lot, his car positioned to provide cover but also visibility for the planned confrontation. The staging was crucial. They needed it to appear random while ensuring it happened at the right time and place. At 7:12 p.m., David's fitness tracker recorded his departure from the gym. His phone showed him walking to his car, unlocking the doors, and beginning to drive away. The route home was familiar. Straight down Maple Avenue, left on Oak Street, right onto his cul-de-sac. It should have taken 12 minutes. But David never made it home. At 7:15 p.m., Sarah received a text from an unknown number. "I can't do this. The guilt is overwhelming. I'm going to the police. I have evidence of everything." Sarah immediately called Marcus. The call lasted 47 seconds. She then texted the unknown number. "Please don't. We can work this out. Think about what you're throwing away." The response came at 7:23 p.m. "It's already done. I'm at the police station now. They're listening to everything. You need to get a lawyer." At 7:31 p.m., Sarah texted Marcus again. "We have a problem. Someone's talking to the police. They know everything. We need to meet now." Marcus's response at 7:33 p.m. revealed the scope of the problem. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I'm at the station, too. They have recordings. They have evidence. It's over." The conspiracy had unraveled not through detective work or forensic evidence, but through the conscience of one of the participants. The lovers' plan had gone wrong in the most unexpected way possible, through human remorse rather than external discovery. Sarah's final text of the evening, sent at 8:47 p.m., was to her sister. "I need you to come over. Something terrible has happened. I think I need a lawyer." The investigation that followed would reveal not just a murder plot, but a systematic conspiracy that had come within minutes of execution before collapsing under its own weight. Detective Maria Rodriguez approached the case with caution. The call had come in at 7:45 p.m. from an agitated man claiming to have evidence of a murder plot he'd been involved in. The story was implausible but detailed enough to warrant investigation. The caller was identified as Marcus Rodriguez, who arrived at the police station voluntarily, accompanied by his attorney. His statement was comprehensive. He'd been involved in a conspiracy to murder David Mitchell. The plan had been minutes from execution, and he decided at the last minute to withdraw and report the crime. The evidence Marcus provided was extensive. He had screenshots of text messages spanning 6 months, encrypted messaging app conversations detailing planning sessions, and documents showing research into lethal methods and cleanup procedures. Most damning were the recordings, dozens of phone conversations in which he and Sarah discussed the specifics of the planned murder. Forensic analysis of Marcus's phone revealed a comprehensive digital trail. Location data showed him at the gym parking lot at 6:23 p.m. on November 12th. Text message logs documented the conspiracy's progression from initial discussions to final execution planning. Audio recordings captured conversations in which both participants acknowledged the criminal nature of their actions. But the investigation needed to verify Marcus's claims against independent evidence. Detective Rodriguez subpoenaed phone records, GPS data, and messaging app logs. She obtained surveillance footage from the gym, Marcus's fitness tracking data, and financial records documenting unusual transactions related to the plot. The timeline reconstruction was meticulous. At 5:47 p.m., David's fitness tracker recorded his arrival at the gym. At 6:23 p.m., Marcus texted Sarah confirming David's presence. At 7:12 p.m., David's tracker showed him leaving the gym. At 7:15 p.m., Marcus sent the text that would unravel everything. But the most compelling evidence came from Sarah Mitchell's own communications. Her phone contained the same text message conversations Marcus had documented, along with additional context revealing her active participation in planning the crime. Her search history showed research into poison types, lethal dosages, and evidence cleanup methods spanning several months. Physical evidence supported the digital trail. Sarah's car contained receipts for unusual purchases, cleaning supplies, plastic sheeting, and tools that could be used to dispose of evidence. Her computer had browsing history showing visits to websites about forensic science, crime scene cleanup, and methods of committing undetectable murders. The conspiracy's sophistication became apparent through analysis of their communication methods. They had used encrypted messaging apps, paid for through cryptocurrency transactions. They had created schedules for David's activities, tracking his movements through GPS data and social media posts. They had even rehearsed their alibis, practicing stories they would tell investigators if questioned. But the investigation revealed something unexpected. The conspiracy had been unraveling for weeks before the final collapse. Marcus had been communicating with a former girlfriend, expressing doubts about the plan and hinting at moral concerns. Sarah had been researching divorce attorneys, suggesting she was considering alternatives to murder. The final piece of evidence was the most damning, a recording Marcus had made on his phone just before going to the police station. In it, he could be heard saying, "I can't go through with this. David doesn't deserve to die. I have to stop this before it's too late." The lovers' plan had failed not through external discovery, but through internal collapse. The conspirators had turned on each other when faced with the reality of taking a human life. The investigation took an unexpected turn when forensic analysis of Sarah Mitchell's phone revealed deleted communications with a third party. The conversations, recovered through digital forensics, exposed a conspiracy far more complex than the two-person plot initially suspected. The third participant was identified as Jennifer Walsh, Sarah's best friend and co-worker, who had been actively involved in the murder plot for months. Her role had been to provide alibi support, coordinate timing, and help dispose of evidence after the murder. She had been present at planning meetings, contributed research on lethal methods, and helped establish the false narrative that would explain David's death. But Jennifer's involvement went deeper than logistics. Text messages revealed she had been having an affair with David Mitchell for over a year, creating a love triangle that added layers of betrayal to the already complex conspiracy. She had been sleeping with David while helping his wife plan his murder, a level of duplicity that shocked even experienced investigators. The timeline reconstruction showed Jennifer had been at David's office on multiple occasions when Sarah believed he was working late. She had provided information about his schedule, habits, and vulnerabilities. She had even participated in discussions about how to make the murder appear to be an accident or random crime. However, Jennifer had also been having second thoughts. Deleted text messages revealed moral qualms, sleepless nights, and increasing anxiety about the plan. She had confided in a colleague about her concerns, hinting at something terrible that was about to happen. She had researched the legal consequences of conspiracy to commit murder and consulted an attorney about her options. The most shocking revelation came from analyzing Jennifer's phone location data on November 12th. At 6:45 p.m., she had been near the gym where David worked out. At 6:47 p.m., she had sent a text to an unknown number. At 7:15 p.m., she had been near the police station where Marcus eventually confessed. The unknown number was traced to a prepaid cell phone that had been purchased with cash 3 days earlier. The device had been used exclusively for communications related to the murder plot, and its location data showed it had been present at multiple planning meetings between Sarah, Marcus, and Jennifer. But the phone's registered owner didn't exist. It was a fake identity created using stolen personal information. The digital trail led to a mail drop in a neighboring state, but surveillance footage showed no relevant activity. The phone had been a ghost, used for precisely 3 days and then abandoned. The investigation revealed that Jennifer had been playing multiple roles: conspirator in the murder plot, secret lover of the intended victim, and potential whistleblower who might have prevented the crime. Her involvement added layers of complexity to an already convoluted case. Physical evidence supported the digital findings. Jennifer's car contained receipts for purchases made near David's office on days when Sarah believed he was working late. Her apartment had items that matched David's clothing preferences, gifts she had likely purchased for him. Her work computer contained emails exchanged with David that revealed their relationship. But the most damning evidence was Jennifer's own words. In a recorded phone conversation with Sarah, made without Jennifer's knowledge, she could be heard saying, "I can't keep doing this to David. He trusts me completely. It's going to destroy him when he finds out what we've been planning." The lovers' plan had failed not because of external intervention, but because of internal betrayal, participants who couldn't maintain the conspiracy, relationships that couldn't survive the pressure, and consciences that wouldn't allow murder to proceed. The case that had begun with one suspicious text message had exposed a conspiracy involving multiple participants, overlapping romantic relationships, and a level of deception that extended far beyond the initial murder plot. The trials of Sarah Mitchell, Marcus Rodriguez, and Jennifer Walsh began simultaneously in February 2024, with 3 separate proceedings that would test the boundaries of conspiracy law and digital evidence interpretation. Assistant District Attorney Richard Kim presented the prosecution's theory: a sophisticated conspiracy involving multiple participants who had systematically planned to murder David Mitchell as part of a scheme involving insurance fraud, romantic entanglements, and financial gain. The evidence included hundreds of text messages, dozens of recordings, and comprehensive digital forensics. The prosecution's case was built methodically. They began with the digital evidence, text messages, GPS data, and phone recordings that documented the conspiracy's progression from initial discussions to final execution planning. They presented financial records showing unusual transactions and research materials found on defendants' computers. Sarah Mitchell's defense team, led by prominent attorney Victoria Chen, presented an aggressive strategy. They didn't deny the text messages or recordings but argued that Sarah had been manipulated by Marcus and Jennifer, who had taken advantage of her emotional vulnerability during marital problems. They suggested the conversations were theoretical discussions rather than actual planning for murder. Marcus Rodriguez's defense was more focused. He admitted to participating in the conspiracy but claimed he'd been the one to prevent the crime by going to police. His attorneys argued for leniency based on his cooperation and his role in exposing the conspiracy before anyone was harmed. Jennifer Walsh's defense was the most complex. She faced charges of conspiracy to commit murder, while also being implicated in an affair with the intended victim. Her attorneys argued that she had been trying to prevent the crime while maintaining her cover as a conspirator, suggesting her actions were protective rather than criminal. The prosecution faced several challenges. The conspiracy had been exposed before the murder was actually committed, making it difficult to prove intent beyond the extensive planning documented in electronic communications. The defendants' claims of manipulation, cooperation, and protective intent created reasonable doubt about their actual motivations. However, the digital evidence was overwhelming. The text messages showed systematic planning over 6 months. The recordings captured explicit discussions of murder methods and cleanup procedures. The GPS data documented surveillance activities and coordination efforts. The conspiracy had been documented in real time by the participants themselves. The most compelling testimony came from David Mitchell, who described discovering the affair and the threats Sarah had made during their separation. His testimony provided context for the defendant's motivations and demonstrated that the conspiracy had been developing during a period of significant marital stress. Expert witnesses analyzed the digital forensics, explaining how the defendants had used encrypted messaging apps, studied forensic science, and planned evidence cleanup methods. The sophistication of the conspiracy suggested intent and premeditation rather than theoretical discussions. The prosecution also presented evidence of the defendants' preparations, receipts for cleaning supplies, research into lethal methods, and practice sessions for their alibis. The planning had been comprehensive and methodical, indicating serious intent rather than casual conversation. But the defense teams raised questions about entrapment and coercion. They suggested Marcus had been pressured into participating, that Jennifer had been trying to prevent the crime, and that Sarah had been manipulated by others. The complexity of the relationships involved created reasonable doubt about each defendant's actual role. The jury deliberated for 4 days. Their questions revealed their focus on intent, whether the defendants had actually planned to commit murder or whether the conspiracy had been theoretical discussions that escalated beyond anyone's actual intentions. The verdicts reflected the complexity of the case. Sarah Mitchell was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Marcus Rodriguez was convicted of attempted conspiracy and sentenced to 8 years, with credit for his cooperation. Jennifer Walsh was convicted of conspiracy and sentenced to 10 years. The judge's comments acknowledged the unusual nature of the case. This was a conspiracy that failed not through law enforcement intervention, but through the defendant's own moral crisis. That doesn't excuse the criminal conduct, but it does demonstrate the complexity of human nature when faced with the reality of taking a human life. The Mitchell case concluded in May 2024, but its implications continue reverberating through family law and digital forensics. The convictions established precedents for prosecuting conspiracy cases where plans were exposed before execution, demonstrating that intent and preparation could be proven through digital evidence alone. The case also highlighted the role of technology in modern criminal conspiracies. Text messages, GPS data, and digital recordings provided a comprehensive record of criminal planning that would have been impossible to document in previous generations. The lovers' plan had been documented in real time by the participants themselves. But beyond legal precedents, the Mitchell case reveals disturbing vulnerabilities in modern relationships. Sarah, Marcus, and Jennifer had appeared successful, stable, and respectable. Their digital communications revealed a different story, one of systematic planning, betrayal, and criminal intent that developed gradually through electronic communication. The case demonstrates how technology can enable both criminal conspiracy and its exposure. The same devices that facilitated the murder plot also provided the evidence that exposed it. Text messages that coordinated criminal activity became the key evidence for prosecution. The text message that began the investigation, "I can't do this. The guilt is overwhelming," wasn't just evidence of a conspiracy undone. It was evidence of human nature asserting itself when faced with the reality of taking a life. The lovers' plan had failed not through external discovery, but through internal collapse. The documentary closes with Detective Rodriguez's final reflection. Technology enables connection, but it also creates permanent records of our intentions and actions. The lovers' plan failed because someone couldn't live with what they were about to do. In the digital age, our devices don't just connect us, they expose us. Sometimes the most sophisticated conspiracies are undone by the simplest human emotion, guilt.